Welcome
to your morning cup
with iBenz Academy.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Ash.
And we have nice, lovely, warm cups of tea.
Well, I have like a lemon and honey mixture. It's not quite tea, but...
We have warm cups of yummy, delicious drinks.
Feel good in a cup.
High frequency in a cup.
High frequency hydration in a cup.
Yes.
Yes. So... we were reminiscing, and actually by request.
Yes.
Somebody asked us to tell a funny story that happened. It wasn't really funny at the time, though. I will say that now. It's funny now. At the time, it wasn't funny.
It was the opposite of funny.
It was not funny at all.
I think it's almost been a year, too.
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, almost 2 years, Kara.
Was it 2 years?
Yeah, because this is before I started training.
Yeah.
Mystical training with Inelia. Mm-hmm. So...
we're going to tell you a
back
story.
In 2020?
2020, I guess, yeah.
Yep. Back in 2020, it was springtime, and it was actually Beltane.
It was Beltane, that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
Yes, April, I think, yeah.
Yep. And so Kara and I were having a lovely evening at home.
Just hanging out.
And it was so beautiful outside. It was just absolutely gorgeous. The weather was amazing.
Spring is here.
Yes.
Skies
were clear.
We were feeling the vibes of spring and felt inspired because of it.
Yeah, I think we were like doing dishes or something. Like we had just had dinner, and then I had this like moment of this vision of you and I or somebody like doing weaving spells with those ribbons that hang on a tall post, you know, like in some kind of Celtic culture, right?
Probably for Beltane.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kara, we should totally do this. I mean, we don't have like a pole with ribbons to
twirl around
with, yeah, and weave, but maybe we could do something.
And we had ribbons.
We did. We had a lot of ribbons.
Mm-hmm. And I think we just wanted to do like some kind of fun springtime magical ritual.
Yeah.
To like bring in the new year, summer's coming, yay, you know?
Yep. And, you know, we'll say this, I had no training at all, like no formal training. I mean, I had read some books, and as a member of Walk With Me Now, so there were certain like exercises we had done on the forum, but I had no training in mystical work. You had just started your training, right?
I was about a year in. Mm-hmm. So I have no excuses. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I was about a year in.
Yeah.
So it was covering some stuff and yeah.
So we're like, okay, cool. Let's do a weaving spell with ribbon, and we're going to weave the ribbon.
Yes, and at that point, I think on Walk With Me Now, Inelia had shared like a weaving spell.
Yeah.
So it had come up before on the forum.
What was a weaving spell?
Right. What is it? How do you do it?
Yeah.
And
the thing we've learned since is at the time, I guess we got carried away with the whole experience of it all. And we started to pretty much like incorporate everything but the kitchen sink.
If you haven't felt it already, this is a cautionary tale, everybody. So how did it go from a fun spark of inspiration to a kitchen sink?
It's springtime. Let's bring joy, light, love in for spring. And we're going to weave it into the property and have a beautiful spring. And then it turned into, let's have a fire. And then we can have fire. And then,
it's magic.
It's edge because the sun's going down. So we'll have some edge magic. And then...
Let's set the stage. So before we had decided to go outside in the backyard. We pulled out some ribbon. And we're like, oh yeah, let's pick some like cool colors, like maybe 3 different colors that represent, I don't even know if it represented anything.
I don't know. I don't think
so. But we picked pretty ribbons.
Liked.
Yes.
Yeah.
We picked pretty ribbons. We're like, oh yes, this is perfect. We can braid them and do stuff. Oh, great. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go outside because it's so nice outside. And it's like starting to be sunset, I think. So we're like, I think we're gonna need a fire. Oh, we might as well do some fire magic too. It'll be perfect. Okay,
right.
Yeah, let's do that.
I remember even getting the ribbon. I remember. I think I was like unraveling it, and you're like, no, we need more. And I had like not even a full arm's width, you know. And they're like, okay, more. And then like, no, we need more. And I'm like, more? Yeah, more. Keep going. And I was like, kind of like, what the dang? Like, this is a lot of ribbon. Okay, but whatever.
It was probably like 10 feet of ribbon.
I think this was probably the beginning of when our ego came in.
Yes. Yes. And for 10, what's 10 feet in meters? Like 2 or 3 meters?
I have no clue.
I don't know
I'm
either.
just Canadian. What am I supposed to know about meters?
So we had a lot of ribbon.
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, that'll be great. And it's like, why? I don't know. Just, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yep.
Off to a great start.
Yep. So then we're at the fire. We get a really awesome fire going. It's like, actually, it was a really nice fire.
It was a nice
We
fire.
did a really good
Yeah,
job.
built a good fire.
We
Yeah.
built a good fire.
I think I might have, like, called in the element of fire.
Yeah, I was going to say, then we started
Yeah.
doing elementals and started bringing the element of fire. And then we invited in the spirit of the river that runs behind the house, behind the property. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then our, like, oh, it's Joy, Light, Love, Spring turned into, we're weaving in, what was it? I don't even remember, but we did not check it beforehand. We didn't even write it down.
No, we didn't.
We barely knew what we were saying half the time.
Yeah, I think we were weaving in a spell for the entire human collective.
Oh, yes.
Of
That's
the universe.
what we were doing. I think it was a planet.
Was it of Earth? Okay.
Yeah,
So the
it's
entire
human collective of the planet.
Uh-huh.
And we were weaving in like
the
embody the new paradigm now
Yeah.
kind of thing, the light paradigm, which is like a complete violation of free will.
Yes, in every way.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and I think this was it before? No, I think the split, like, COVID stuff had already, like, gone in full effect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't think we have any excuses about that either.
Yeah.
It's pretty obviously, like, oh, we're aware of the split,
Yeah.
and we're just like, light paradigm for everyone.
We just kept going. We just, little
Adding
light
things.
workers, just like little light egoic light workers. Like,
Righteousness.
oh, we could do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
righteous. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do it. Oh, we're gonna change everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I remember my cat Cleo, who's my familiar. She started tripping out and just getting all kinds of crazy.
I've never heard her meow so
It's very unlike
oddly.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I ended up bringing her outside because she was just being so kind of bizarre. And then outside, she was just like going berserk, running everywhere. Like it was almost like she was trying retrospect. She was trying to get us to move away from the fire. It was like, stop what you're doing, don't do this.
She was clearly in distress.
She was very much in distress. So we locked her in the house.
Wow, so your mystical animal familiar was giving signs of distress.
And we're like, let's put her inside. Yeah, she's distracting this whole thing. We're busy.
Yeah, we're busy.
Focused.
Yeah.
We've got business to do.
Yeah, go away.
Because we know it has to happen right now.
For everyone.
For everybody.
Yes.
On the planet.
Yes.
Oops.
So, yes, there was, I think at this point I was starting to train in mediumship. So I was very, very excited about calling in spirits. We worked with the fire and then the river spirits, which we did not clarify.
Nope.
Which ones, if they were high frequency, how many, like all these things.
Or I don't know, like hi, how are you? Who are you?
Hey, would you like to?
Do we want to hang out with you?
Right.
We don't actually know. Just come hang out.
Yeah. Ugh.
What a big, massive open door is what it was, right?
Yep. And then I think was it at that point did we start to weave the ribbon, or did we talk to the tree? Which came first? Do you remember?
We talked to the tree. Then we went to the tree that was right next to the fire, or nearby the fire. And we talked about, what was it that you wanted to call in? Some like spirit of the tree.
So what I remember doing was basically asking some of the elementals that work with trees. I was asking those elementals to see if the tree wanted to co-create with us. Mm-hmm. And I think how we had discussed at the time is, let's see if we have agreement with the tree, which I think meant one thing to me and a different thing to you.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we asked the tree to see, because we finally got a little polite and wise, and we were like, do you want to do this?
Right. Well, at least we asked a question.
I got a yes, and you got a no. Mm-hmm. Right.
I got a hard no, and I was like, oh, that's odd. Whatever. We'll just
got
ignore
a yes.
it.
We're okay. But
Yeah.
I wasn't asking the same, like the definition to me. This is where it matters. Everybody take note. Be very specific. This is where it matters, right? Because we had two different meanings of what we were talking about and who we were asking.
Yes, and clarify, because you were asking one entity I was asking a different entity, and we don't even know if it was the same question.
Yeah.
It could have been a different question.
Yeah.
I think it was like, hey, do you want to, like, co-create with us? Like, in what? What does it even mean?
So we had this, like, massive ribbon.
Yes.
It was, like, insanely long.
And was it on the tree we started? Like,
I think we,
hooked
like,
it up
hooked it onto the tree so we could better weave.
Yeah.
And then I started, like, having these, like, waves of, like, fear coming in. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? Okay. But we, keep going because we're doing our magic and
I think
whatever.
we were saying a spell as we were weaving the ribbon.
Which is not something, like, I was ever taught. It was just something we just decided we were doing. Again, so don't do what we do, by the way. Again, cautionary tale.
Everything you're hearing in this podcast
is the way not to do it.
Do the opposite.
Don't do it.
Everything you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So, yes, we're saying a spell that I don't think we had even written down. We just, like, talked about it on the fly. Yeah. And we're like, oh, what about this? Oh, yeah, that sounds good. And it's like a spell for the entire human collective on the planet. And
so we're, like, completely out of line.
Yep.
And then this fear comes in, and it keeps coming in, and it's getting stronger. And then finally, I was like, okay, Kara, I can't do this anymore. I have to stop. Because whatever is going on, like, this is getting weaved into our spell. And this energy is not, like, I'm not clear on this because there's fear here. So then what do we do?
Good job.
Finally,
one of us was
finally.
Like, we should stop. So then we were like, okay, looked around and went, oh shit.
It's like,
pardon my French, but
it was like if we had, like, been baking and we looked in the kitchen, 1 minute later, it was like there's flour everywhere and broken eggs and butter and everything, but mystically speaking, it was just like everything was just a huge mess.
So bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read the book Lord of the Flies, but it was kind of like one of those moments. The end of the book, spoiler alert, it's like the kids look around and go, oh my God, what did we just do? It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Horrible atrocity as well. It was pretty atrocious, mystically speaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hijacking an ego in every way and breaking the free will of everyone on the planet. Yeah, not so great.
Oopsie, sorry.
Well, fortunately, after we saw the flag of the fear, we're like, okay, clearly this is dissonant, because I got the red flag of like, oh, I don't have agreement with the tree and the beings working with it, and then looked around and was like, oh my God, we have to undo everything we just did.
Yeah.
Like, we can't go on, we have to stop, and 2, we have to undo everything we just did.
Yeah.
So it was literally this process of like the opposite,
undoing it all,
everything. So
close every door that we just opened,
and like,
which I was glad at least you had that to know, because I would have not known, like, at all,
right? Yeah,
like, how to do that. And that was, I mean, that was a whole thing of itself and was not pleasant.
Yeah.
Or easy. Like, did we do that? Did we do that? Because we didn't take notes. We didn't have anything written down. We didn't have a process or anything we had practiced or worked through.
Right.
Anyway.
And at this point, it's like,
we were improvising, right?
And I think I had enough training to be like, okay, this is bad. Delete button, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, it's like pitch black outside. And it's like
our
wet.
ribbon's soaking wet.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's wet and cold because it's just moist. We live in a rainforest, and like the fire was blazing. So, but we had this ribbon, and it was like, okay, we have to unweave the ribbon and then burn it. And I don't even remember what we said, but it was basically
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but we undid it.
So for like an hour, it felt like an hour.
It took a fairly long time to undo everything that we did,
because they were tight braids. You're a very good braider, so it was a good braid.
It's me.
And then we slowly undid it, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, and then we finally separated out the ribbon. So looked at it, and then we burned it, saying with the intention of like, delete. And then we're undoing all of this. And then I had to dismiss the spirits we had invited, which at the time I thought I had done. But it turns out there was a bit of a straggler.
Well, that's later.
That's later.
Kind of going too far.
That's later. So dismissed those, and then
we pretty much were like done.
Oh,
like,
my
we
God.
were cooked. We were like, oh my God, like, okay, oopsie.
Exhausted.
Like, massive oopsie, super tired, and then we needed to just rest. So I think we just, like, wrapped up for the night and went, went to bed. And the next day we were like, I don't remember how you were, but I was just completely just exhausted. Like I had no energy whatsoever.
I remember you were exhausted for like days.
Oh yeah.
Like 2, 3, 4 days at least. And like, it was like, just, it was like very noticeable. Like just you weren't in your routine and tired, and it's almost like being sick but not being sick.
But it was like, it was like I was sick, but I didn't have like a cold or a flu. Right. I just was depleted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you went to your mystical training.
Oh my God. So I don't know if it was a day later or a week later, but I knew I had to tell Inelia what happened. And I don't know if you've ever had that moment of like going to your teacher, or someone you respect or admire, or a parent or whatever, and just going, so I did something really, really bad. So I told her the whole story. And I think that is the worst reprimand I have ever
I can only imagine.
From Inelia.
I can only imagine.
Let me tell you this. You do not want to be reprimanded by Inelia Benz. And it's not that she was unkind or yelled at me. It wasn't like aggressive. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so, and this is my ego shattering, it was so like succinct and just true. And I knew I had fucked up. Pardon my French. But she said, you are totally responsible for this. You should have known better. You are the one in training. Everything that had happened to Ashley, like, you are responsible for. And it sounds like you cleaned up your mess, which thank God for that. But, like, I can't even remember. But it was
at that point, you're just like,
ah! Yeah. It was just like, oh my God. One of, the worst moments in my training career.
The ego hijack and then the ego crash after.
Yes. But here's the thing. It was like totally true and resonant and accurate and real and responsibility. How do we respond, right?
Well, I remember like that night you came home and you're like, so by the way, I talked to Inelia about what happened. And then what was it that you said? It was
right. Because I described that you seemed out of sorts, right? She asked me to replay the whole scenario, so I told her everything that happened, everything we did to undo it, and then I think she probably asked me like, okay, well, how have you been feeling, and how has Ashley been feeling? And I shared that. Well, she seems, energetically tired and all these things, and I think at the time she had scanned it, and she said to me to the effect of, her energy field feels like it's bleeding. Like she's literally injured. Her energy field is injured because of this. And this is what happens. This is what the repercussions can be. And I was like, oh my God, again, the ego. But like, even just from a practical standpoint, it's like my sister, got hurt because of my ego, right? I saw the red flags. And the thing with not only mystical training, but pretty much everything in life is if you see a red flag, don't ignore the red flags.
These are red flags, everybody. Again, maybe write it down. Red flags. Don't do any of this.
Yes, so when you feel a dissonance.
Yes.
Or fear, or even just...
Or you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, pretty like... Yeah,
because it's one of those things where I think the energy of it started out super just like sweet and nice and just wanting to have this like beautiful little thing, and then it was that
turned
like
into
it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then it was like everything in the kitchen, like I said, that we were using,
because we obviously know what the entire human collective of the planet needs.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
We know it's good for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Righteousness is another red flag. Write that one down.
Yeah. So then when Kara shared that with me, I was like, oh, okay, well, at least I can work with that. Now I know like kind of what's going on. I wasn't very familiar with it. But then I started doing some work with it to heal my energetic body and that wound. And then I think it was working because it started getting better. But then it was like maybe a week later or something. I think it was like at least a week later, if not more.
Yeah, some time passed, I think.
I don't remember why, but I was like, oh, I need to clear my entourage. And so I cleared my entourage, and I all of a sudden see this, I don't know what it was, like somebody on a horse or like something, I can't remember, like it was some spirit from that was in my field, leaves my field and goes back to the river. And I think there was like either a couple horses or hellhounds or something with them. I can't remember what it was, some creatures with them. And I was like, oh, okay.
That explains that. So, did they seem friendly and high frequency?
No. They didn't make the cut. They got booted. So
yeah.
But so then it was like, oh, okay. There was a lot of learnings from that. And I think honestly, considering what we did, we had a mild like a mild learning lesson, if you will. Like the implications could have been worse.
Yes.
And probably would have been worse if we hadn't done the work that we did, at least with the bit of knowledge that we had to reverse everything.
Yeah.
But
exactly. And that's the thing about magic is it's kind of like a hack or a cheat code or a backdoor to the Matrix. So you can push things into the Matrix with magic, and you can break free will with magic. That's the thing. And that's why there are schools of thought about like the left hand and dark magic and light magic, and there's a lot of terms and names for it, but it's because it's it's true, like truth it for yourself. But that's one of the things is it can do that. So it's literally like playing with fire. You can really hurt yourself and others, but you can also use it to cook a beautiful meal and keep your family warm and enjoy the beauty of it and all these things. So it's the same thing. And fortunately, we had recognized in the moment, okay, we need to stop this. So we did, which was good. But it could have been so much worse if we hadn't undone it. So thank goodness for that.
Kept pushing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with it, too, I think the other piece to it is that all of it came out of an ignorance, right? And an ignorance and like an unchecked ego or unchecked egos. And through that, those are things that you can do something about, right? So since like I started my mystical training, I've learned from this lesson. I've learned so much more about doing mystical work and magic. I know you have as well. But it's like we've turned it around in the sense of like now we're being responsible.
Yes.
And when was the last time we did anything like that? Like not like that. No way.
Never again.
No way. We even were like, okay, new rule. We're not allowed to say any like spells until we've had at least 2 weeks.
That's true. And we write them down.
And they have to be written down so we can really check and check again and make sure we understand. And
yeah.
But
And here's the other thing. More recently, what we've learned, not only in our training, but I think Inelia has shared this publicly in a couple of venues too. What do you call a lone wolf mystic? Stupid. In other words, you don't work alone.
Yeah.
Because you'll have blind spots. And especially when you're working with others in a high frequency way, you can spot other things. And it's honestly just more fun, but you can't work alone, especially when you're doing this kind of work, big work, or even just little things like, oh, we wanted to make a spell about spring or whatever. It's good to not do it alone. So practically speaking, what does that mean? I think a good place to start is, Inelia has a class on mystical, what's the class called? Mystical, stepping into your mystical power in your everyday life, I think. Great class. Covers the basics. Awesome first step, in my opinion. Fear processing exercise, great first step. But there's also a ton of resources out there online or in the library, whatever, that you can check out. But of course, as always, truth it. See if it resonates. Pick up a book about spells or magic or whatever. Take a look. See if it resonates. So that's a good first step, is to use a method that someone else has done or shared or done before. Because I think one of our missteps, one of many, was that we were also going on the fly and making stuff up as we went and not checking things. And even just by having like a method to follow that someone else has done and shared, and you can read about it and do research and check, it makes a huge difference. So even that can make a big difference. So even in that sense, if you feel like you're doing it alone, you're not doing it alone, because you're working from the knowledge of others by informing yourself.
But that's also to the earlier point about doing it with others is like the environment we create, and what we've been doing with iBenz Academy is creating that group learning environment. So that means that you have that chance to check these things. You have people, as you learn about these topics and these tools, to, cross-reference, ask questions, share notes. And then you also have folks who've done it that you can ask questions with and get further guidance on it. And that makes a huge difference, because that, to also what I think Inelia said recently, right, is the working in a group is a form of expanding your awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There are literally more awarenesses in play. So if like you're studying a class by yourself, like you can get a lot from that class by yourself. Like, holy smokes, I've done Ascension 101, this, that, and the other so many times and got so much out of it. But man, taking these classes like in a study group or as part of iBenz Academy, holy smokes, it's like to a whole nother level. Like what I personally gained from it, and just the other viewpoints that people share, it's so much more interesting too, and inspiring, and it just feels really good.
And then when you find it, like it's kind of like you start fine-tuning it, like let's say a spell or something that you might be creating, and you're fine-tuning it, and then you just like, it's like everything clicks. You've got the different perspectives on it. You've using the tools and the knowledge and the information that's available to you, and it's just so magical.
Exactly. And it's the reason why we want to share this story. Well, there's a couple of reasons why, but it's always a good reminder about doing the work, like doing our work and staying high frequency and staying in integrity and coming from a place of empowerment. Because for me personally, there were several times in that whole experience where I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't say anything because there was a fear, because the ego was motivated out of fear of like, oh, I don't want to stop this cool thing that we're doing right now around the fire, or oh, I don't want to like ruin the night or the mood, or it's like super unimportant stuff, but that's what it is. And I didn't have enough like strength in myself at the time to be like, I gotta shut this down, especially as the responsible person who knew to like not continue, to not persist. But it just didn't happen, Mm-hmm. So for me, it's one of the most important lessons I've ever had in my entire life, not just mystical training, but in any form of learning, honestly. Because your truth and knowing your truth is so important. And in some ways, I had a validation of what happens when you go against your truth. And at the time, my truth was, this is wrong. It doesn't feel right. It's dissonant. And going against that truth was just a very important lesson, essentially, to never do that again. And, we inform ourselves. So learn from it and move on, right? But at the same time, approaching things in high frequency way can be the total opposite perspective. And in some ways, since that event has happened, we've done some really cool spells and rituals together that have been amazing and inspirational and beautiful
and well vetted
and very well vetted. And yeah, exactly. And I think that is an important lesson too, of being diligent in ourselves and using the tools that we have, and being responsible.
And I think the other aspect of this, like the other learning lesson is, okay, we were two minds, not just one, like two of us involved in this, but we're two of us who also didn't really have the knowledge for what we were doing. So that's where it was, once we were able to get like Inelia's perspective on the situation, then we were even more expanded awareness to what was actually happening. And again, even more, and then able to respond in a high frequency way. So, it's all about coming together to be able to expand our awareness, and hopefully even through this conversation, through our sharing here, this has expanded listeners' awareness, right? Something that maybe you hadn't considered before. And now you don't have to learn that lesson. You don't have to have an energetic, I don't know, bleed or wound or whatever, avoid it.
Yes, you don't have to have a traumatic experience to learn to trust your resonance and dissonance.
Yep, exactly.
And the other thing is, with the expansion of awareness, it's also that much more powerful too. Because, I think this is explored in a lot of schools of thought, not just iBenz method, but when your intention is working in concert with another's, in other words, when multiple people have the same intention, it's so much more powerful. Mm-hmm. So even just from that perspective, not doing it alone, working with others, not only expands your awareness, but you're literally more powerful with the thing that you're trying to do.
Right. If we had agreement from all our co-creators on what we were going to create, and it would be such a different outcome, for sure.
Yeah.
So we bring this all back to your opportunity to expand your awareness through the Instant Manifestation Workshop. We've got less than 3 weeks to register. Mm-hmm. Enrollment closes on March 19th. We do have an opportunity through the workshop to learn some of these tools and practices Inelia teaches us, but also get that chance to expand your awareness with the group.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the many benefits of doing it as a group is you can check your stuff with other people. So literally like writing down, okay, what do I want to manifest? And then getting feedback from not only trained facilitators who have been through this process many times before and know the method, have had great success with it, but also with your fellow students and co-creators, and having that expansion of awareness, not only in tweaking your items and making sure they're clean and clear and you're actually doing what you want to be doing, right? It's just such an added benefit to doing it as a group. And that dynamic is incredibly powerful. And it's something that we hope that you will engage and co-create with us, because the more our awareness expands, the more powerful we become too.
Absolutely. I'm all for that.
Yep. So don't delay. Got 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks to register. And this is an advanced workshop. So if you haven't started using the tools, now is a good time. But also, if you want to learn more, check out the website. There's a lot of info about what to expect, what we'll be covering, and also what you need to do to prepare. But it's worth it, because when you do your homework and, write things down, vet them with your allies and your co-creators and make sure things feel good, the result is just so much better.
It works.
It works.
It works.
So yes, cautionary tale, don't do what we did, but join us in the Instant Manifestation Workshop to see how to do it in a high frequency way.
We'll see you there.
Bye.